Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you guys my top 5 underrated premium ships list. Now, by that I mean that these are 5 ships that are generally underrated by the community, meaning that they are thought less of or thought pretty poorly of, but they are actually fairly decent in my mind, and I'm going to explain my reasoning for each ship as we go through it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that these are 5 ships that are horribly misunderstood and they're actually secretly the best premium ships in the game. No, 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 no. I'm just saying that they are a lot better than what they're generally made out to be in the community. At least, again, in my opinion, and I again will explain my reasoning for each ship as we go through it. And again, this is all 110% my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. It's just what I think about these premium ships. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get on started with number 5, which is the Tier 8 Premium British battleship, the Vanguard. Now, the Vanguard is a ship that's getting up there in age in the game. She is, I think, almost 3 years old now. And Vanguard is a real still historical ship. She was the last ever commissioned battleship in the world, which I think Wargaming's done a pretty good job of translating that into the ship that we have in game. First off, she looks very modern. Definitely gives off that very late World War II, early 1950s era ship design vibe. And I do like the way that the ship looks. The British did a very good job designing her. But besides that, she has some characteristics that help reinforce this as a very, late war, early 1950s battleship. The main one being her maneuverability. This ship is incredibly maneuverable. She has a base 10-second rudder shift time. That's right, a 10-second rudder shift time on a battleship, a Tier 8 battleship. And this isn't like a tiny battleship by any stretch of the imagination. She's a pretty sizable one, and the rudder turns in 10-second space. And of course, you can build into that to get that down even lower. So this is a battleship that maneuvers like a heavy cruiser, and she's, well, not as fast as a Tier 8 heavy cruiser, but she goes north of 31 knots quite easily, even faster if you have the speed flag equipped. So she's a pretty darn maneuverable ship. Now, her main drawbacks are that, one, her citadel is very exposed. It's not very well hidden at all, to the point at which if you are showing broadside in this thing, you're probably going to get citadeled by anything that has decent AP, short of, like a light cruiser. And definitely some of the heavy cruisers at tier 10 tier 10 and tier 8 and up, because this is a tier 8, we'll get up to tier 10, will most definitely be able to citadel you. But that's compensated for by that maneuverability. Again, this ship turns on a dime, and she's a really fun battleship to play once you get her playstyle down. You just keep running, use that excellent rudder shift time to your advantage, and do your darndest not to get hit. Now, her belt armor is certainly thick enough to where when you're properly angled, of course, you're going to bounce pretty much everything thrown at you, and if you're able to do that and get that down, this is a very excellent ship to play. She's not quite an HE spammer like the British main battleship line. When you do get up tiered, you are going to have to do that because you do only have 8 15-inch guns. They do have a sub 30-second reload time, which is really nice. The accuracy isn't fantastic on them, but again, that quick reload time definitely helps you keep up. And in my experience, she can sling enough HE to start quite a few fires and definitely stay in there in terms of dealing damage when she does get double up tiered. And when she is at tier 8, she's a really great battleship, because now you have a 15-inch battleship at tier 8 that's incredibly maneuverable. Has very darn good concealment too, with the commander build that I'm running, which is the module and the commander skill. She's down to 12.6 kilometers on her detection, which is really darn good. So you have a maneuverable battleship, a battleship with 8 15-inch guns that reload in 25 seconds at tier 8, and you have a stealthy battleship at tier 8. All that together means that, yeah, it really is like a giant heavy cruiser. But again, if you do get up tier to tier 10, this ship, when it does get called out in the open and it does get focused down, it does go down very, very quickly, and that's a lot of the main complaints. That and her guns aren't that accurate. But again, with that 25-second reload time, with Adrenaline Rush, play it like a heavy cruiser, use a HE a lot. When you're top tier, then that's when you're going to be primarily firing AP. Definitely if anything shows you their broadside fire AP, because it does have the normal battleship AP, so it can slap the sides of ships pretty easily. But overall, I think it's a pretty darn good ship. They did a really good job of bringing a real still historical ship into the game and reflecting, this is a very late war, early 1950s battleship, so she's maneuverable, she's fast, and I like that they were able to do that. Alright, moving on down to number 4, we have the Tier 6 American Premium Battleship, the Arizona. Yeah, the Arizona. This is another real still historical ship, probably one of the most famous warships in the world, definitely in North America. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the Arizona was present at Pearl Harbor and was sunk in the attack, and she's the only battleship that wasn't raised and brought back into the fight, and you can see her still today as she rests in Pearl Harbor. I think that's also pretty cool too, that you can get to see this ship in real life and then get to play it in game. But anyway, what is the Arizona's deal? Well, she's basically a New Mexico that could actually hit stuff. She has 12 14-inch guns at Tier 6. And that's a lot of firepower to have at Tier 6. For a Tier 6 battleship, she has pretty decent accuracy with those 12 14-inch guns. You do, of course, pay for that in your reload time. You have a 35-second reload time on those 14-inch guns. But again, 14-inch guns at Tier 6, that's a lot of firepower to have. And her dispersion and accuracy is slightly better than the New Mexico, which is up at Tier 6 as well. So it's a nice alternative to the New Mexico if you are getting frustrated with playing that ship, because that ship is a pretty bad shotgun even for Tier 6. Now, I'm not saying the Arizona's like, a laser pointer, but I find that her salvos are much more consistent. Now, of course, it is a pre-war dreadnought, so just like the it doesn't say much when you talk about the American tech line now, does it? Because they're all pretty darn slow. She can go 22 knots with the speed flag, which at Tier 6, that's still okay for an American battleship to have, or a battleship in general to have too. It's not like you're being outran by the faster battleships that other nations are unlocking while you're still at 20 knots top speed in the Colorado at Tier 7 in the American tech line. But this is a ship that is a nice alternative to the New Mexico. It's also pretty darn tough. Now, it is slow, so you are going to run into those situations where if the flank collapses and it's just, you trying to run away, you're probably going to get melted down, and that is where a lot of frustration comes at in the Arizona. Well, not really the Arizona, but the American tech line as well. But if you like that sniper gameplay style, and do understand that again, it is a Tier 6 ship, you do have the spotter plane though, so you can get her range out a little bit more, and she's a little less frustrated than the New Mexico. So I do like this ship. I think it's a pretty good ship if you're looking at going up the American battleship line, you want something to train your American battleship commanders. The Arizona is a pretty good pickup for that, and plus two, real still historical ship with a lot of history behind her as well, so a really neat package all the way around. Moving on down to number 3, we have the Tier 6 Premium British Heavy Cruiser, the London. Now, the London is a County class heavy cruiser. She is the later war refit of the County class. That's why her superstructure looks much more modernized. She doesn't have the same funnel configuration as other County classes do. What's really interesting about the London is that she has the old British 203s. So back before they had a British heavy cruiser tech line out, the old 203s are different from the new 203s. The new 203s are more focused on like HE spam and such, and these 203s are a little bit more traditional. Her HE spam capability, it's still there. Like, don't get me wrong, it still can spam HE decently well, but nowhere near as good as the tech line, of course. They're a little bit more AP focused too. They hit a bit harder, but they don't have the I think they have a slightly shorter either fuse or pin than the tech line 203s, but again, they're still 203s at Tier 6, so they do pack a pretty hefty punch. Now, the main thing with the London is that she explodes quite well, like, well, all the British cruisers do. But, yeah. However, unlike... and cruisers in general at tiers 6 and 7, well, 5, 6, and 7, well, 4, 5, 6, and 7, tend to explode quite well. But with the London, you do get a heal. It's actually the British Destroyer heal, which is strange. But, I mean, hey, it's a heal on a tier 6 cruiser. That's a positive in my book. You do get smokescreen on this ship as well. It's a fairly long duration smoke too. So it's actually pretty simple to play. You can just sit in a smokescreen and farm to your heart's content. Some other frustrations are that her range is pretty darn short, which it is. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat that. Your 2 or 3s can only get out to a maximum range of 13.4 kilometers at tier 6. Now, keep in mind too, this is a tier 6 that can get double up tiered to tier 8, so yeah. And at tier 8 there's a lot more radar to deal with, so your smokescreen kind of goes out the window. So yeah, when the ship does get double up tiered, it does suck. I mean, there's no two ways about that. But in tier 6 and tier 7 games, she's a pretty darn good ship. And if you catch someone showing you broadside, get that AP in the tubes and slap the absolute crap out of them. You also get a very long duration hydro that it's more of a personal defense hydro, 3 kilometers, but it lasts for quite a while. So when you're either sitting in smoke or you're playing in close, having to push around some islands or such, it's great for that. I mean, again, it's a hydro that lasts for 202 seconds at tier 6. It's pretty darn good. So, the torpedoes. I almost forgot about the torpedoes, too. She has 7-kilometer torps that can be single-dropped at tier 6 that do 15,000 damage, almost 16,000 damage at tier 6. That's pretty darn good as well. It's a ship that, if you have a little bit more experience in, you can really push the limits of what this ship can do. And this ship is fantastic in tier 6 games. But again, it gets double up tiered. It is kind of boned, so there's no two ways around that. But she's got quite a bit going for her for what she is, in my opinion, at least. Alright, going down to number 2, we have the tier 6 French battleship, the Dunkirk. So the Dunkirk is a ship that, if you've been watching this channel for quite some time, you should know that I am a pretty big Dunkirk fan. I do understand all the frustrations around the ship, but this is just such a lovely little battleship. And a lot of things that have changed in the game in the past couple of years, yeah, it has made life a little rougher for the Dunk, but I mean, it's still a fun boat to play. It's a lot better than her sister, the Strasbourg, which for some reason got up tier to tier 7 without receiving many buffs at all. So she's in a much more comfortable place matchmaking for that reason. But even more so now that we've got the French battlecruiser line out, they all play like slightly bigger Dunkirks with more gimmicks with the reload booster and the engine boost and such too. So if you've played those ships and you like those ships, you should give the Dunkirk a whirl now, because again, she plays pretty much extremely similar to those cruisers, except she doesn't get the speed boost or the reload booster. The Strasbourg gets the reload booster, but she doesn't get the speed boost for some reason. If they gave her the speed boost, that made up-tiering her a lot more sensical, but they didn't. But anyway, you play it the same way. You keep on the move. You can push around corners when you're at tier 6 if you're facing same tier battleships or cruisers that you know can't overmatch your bow. Those sweet guns that the battlecruiser line use, she has those guns too. She has the excellent French 330mm guns. In fact, I think the Toulon has literally her guns, and I describe the Toulon as a Dunkirk that can consistently hit their shots, and yeah, that's what the Toulon is. Now, understandably, having those guns on a tier 6 battleship, these guns, by the way, hit well above their weight class. They are some darn hard-hitting guns once you get in close, but of course, the way that games go today, yeah, that doesn't really happen. In fact, when I was trying to record background footage for the Dunkirk here, I had like 3 games in a row that were double CV games, and the Dunkirk strong suit is not AA like, well, almost every ship at tier 6. So you can imagine about how well those games went there. but she's maneuverable. She's pretty darn fast. If you can get on a flank with the Dunkirk and get in the sides of enemy ships with these 330s, with how fast the velocities are, with how hard the AP hits on this ship, you will be blapping some fools for quite a bit of their health. And so many players underestimate the Dunkirk. I see it all the time. They show too much side because they think, oh, it's a puny little battleship with tiny guns, and then boom, there goes 15k of their health in one salvo. So I like the Dunkirk. Doesn't really get its due a lot of times when I read about what some players are saying about her, but a solid little battleship right here. But yes, it does have a very easy nose to overmatch, and it doesn't really have the thickest armor ever on her sides, so don't show your sides in the ship. Play smart, use island cover, hop up, get on the flanks, blast some fools in their broadside, and run away before they can catch you. Alright, moving on down to number 1, we have the Tier 6 German cruiser, the Graf Spee. Wow, the Graf Spee. I haven't played this ship, I don't think, more than once or twice since the Tier 6 CB season. And it was something taking this ship back out in today's World of Warships. So, the Graf Spee is another real still historical ship. All the ships on this list are real, if you haven't noticed. And, of course, it's some wacky German engineering going on here with that political party, because I don't want to get blasted off of YouTube, trying to rearm Germany in between the two wars. Yeah, and it shows in game because, wow, you've got a heavily armored cruiser hull, which the hull itself is really well armored, especially if you can utilize the main battery belt. Of course, she does overmatch herself, by the way, if you guys don't know. But the belt armor on the Graf Spee is actually really good, and you can bounce even like Tier 8 battleship shells constantly if they keep trying to shoot your belt and you're angled enough. But of course, many players just blast you in your bow or stern because they know they can overmatch you there. Her guns are, of course, obviously much larger than any cruiser at her tier has. In many ways, this is the original super cruiser in the game. She has 283mm guns at tier 6. Now, she does only have 6 of them. They are in the turret in the front, turret in the back, so you are very limited with trying to use your guns in the game. And if you also can't tell from the footage that you're watching, her dispersion's quite terrible. And you're only limited to 3 guns at a time if you're trying to stay steeply angled and not get blasted off the face of the map. However, when you can get in close, this ship wrecks pretty much whatever's in its way. Another cruiser, another battleship. You've got 283mm guns that hit hard when you get in close. When these guns connect, this ship is mean. We're talking doing easily 15k a salvo at close range. Again, at close range at tier 6, that's of course from like 10 kilometers in. Which, in pure tier 6 matches, that does still happen. Again, this is another ship that when it does get up tiered, it's not having a good time by any stretch of the imagination. It's still pretty good against cruisers when it gets double up tier, because it does still have 283mm guns, but trying to get those to hit tier 8 cruisers is another story. You've got torpedoes. You literally have every gimmick the Germans have just welded onto this ship. It's another one of those ships, like the Odin and the what's the other ship I was just thinking about, like the Brandenburg. Just all the gimmicks on one ship. You get Hydro, good armor, hard-hitting AP. Used to actually have good secondaries back in the day. You could do a secondary build Graf Spee back in the day, and it would work. And keep in mind, I'm talking like several years ago, not just 2 years ago before the Commander rework. So you have all that on one ship that's pretty darn maneuverable, and was the scourge of an entire clan battle season. Because when this ship is top tier, this ship is exceptionally mean. But this has to be one of the hardest drop-offs in ship performance versus what tier it's in this game. I say often, battleships and CVs, they have it the roughest when they get double up-tiered. The Graf Spee is probably one of the worst ships to get double up-tiered in this game. Because once you get double up tiered, you can't HE spam like other cruisers do, because one, your HE isn't that great, and two, you still have a 20-second reload on your 6 guns that aren't that accurate, you know? So you can't reliably HE spam when you get double up tiered. Your 283mm guns that can just bully battleships at tier 6 and tier 5. When you get double up tier, they're probably just going to be bouncing off of most of the battleship's armor that you're seeing at tier 8. So yeah, I'm not trying to say that this is a super good ship, but when it's at tier 6 and tier 7, it's not that bad. It's pretty fun, and this ship has been given away, I think, at least 6 times for free now. It's got to be at least that many times. I can't even remember all the events they gave it away. I think the last time they gave it away in was, what doctor was it? Was it the Z44's doctor? It was the same doctor that was going on for the Tier 6 CB season, because so many of these graph Spees showed up in that Tier 6 CB season that the ship got banned from clan battles. Just outright. Just not limited to 1 or 2, just banned. Because again, when it's top tier, it's a beast, it's wonderful, I love it in a tier 6 game, I hate it in a tier 8 game. And that's the graph Spee in a nutshell. So guys, I'm new to you guys think about this list. Again, I'm not saying that these ships are like secretly the best premium ships ever, but they've got a lot more to offer than what many players give them credit for. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Again, hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. Have a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.